What's up YouTube, Capital G here, looking at the OCG meta just a little bit because I was very shocked by what is actually topping over there and what might actually be the best deck in Japan. Currently, you're not even going to believe this, especially the versions that people are actually playing. So I started looking at these deck lists and I said, wait, what? ABC is actually back on top and the versions that they're playing are pretty unbelievable. Now, this is a really good thing in my personal opinion, and actually it's not just like ABC dominating or anything like that. If you look at the OCG right now, guys, it looks like the wild freaking west, and I really hope that this happens in the TCG, where obviously we're just, you know, kind of in a Zodiac world, but in Japan, where they basically have hammered Zodiac and True Draco into the freaking ground, where can't play Broad Bull, can't play Barrage, can't play Trident, Rapier's at 1. It's like, why even bother with that? And then obviously they just had a bunch of nerfs to True Dracos with Diagram and Masterpiece at 1, so people aren't even really messing with that either, and it is actually opened the door for ABCs to come back. But when you see these versions, you'll just be like, Capo, what is this? Let me go ahead and show you guys this. Actually, before I do, just to kind of prove that I'm not pulling you guys' legs. So obviously they have a bunch of tournaments every single week in Japan, and they're not nearly as big as like the YCS circuit, but some of them are, yeah, I would say like regional level. Some of them will be like 96 players, like this event right here. It's a team event, and you see right here, ABC got second. These two guys basically running the same deck, just a couple of cards different. And I believe there was another event that was close to like 200 people, and ABC, well, this one's 120. ABC got first at this one. But if you just keep looking over all of these deck lists, you see ABC actually pops up a bunch. Here's another ABC, but let me go ahead and show you guys the deck. So this is one of the variants, and the first thing, I don't know about you guys, but the first thing that popped out to me was, what the hell is Skill Drain doing in ABC? And the players who actually took second, they were both running Skill Drain at multiples in the deck. But when you really think about it, right, and this is why Skill Drain is my favorite floodgate in the game, and I so wish that it would come back to at least 2 in the TCG. I know a lot of you guys are gonna hate that because you guys think that it turns Yu-Gi-Oh into Caveman Yu-Gi-Oh, which it basically does. But really, when you think about Skill Drain and ABC, it actually can work. It's gonna sound crazy, but just hear me out, right? So obviously A, B, and C, they don't really have any effects on the field that matter. I mean, they activate in the graveyard, so you're not missing out there. And their whole like uncontact effect, or I guess their ununion effect, when they're in the spell and trap zone and they want to summon themselves, since they are spells at that point, you can still activate that under Skill Drain, unless I'm just mistaken, but I believe that you should be able to. In fact, the only real effect that you miss out on is obviously your ABC Buster Dragon and his ability to constantly banish stuff. But think about it like this, right? If you have Skill Drain out on the field and you have ABC Buster Dragon, obviously you have offensive pressure. You have a 3,000 beater that your opponent has to answer. If they use any type of removal, maybe something like a Dark Hole or something, obviously you're just going to uncontact and it's not really that big of a deal. If your opponent can't use monster effects to easily answer your ABC Buster Dragon, even if you don't have a hand, if they can't just make Utopia the Lightning and try and run them over or something like that, or use some type of monster effect to out the dude, it's gonna be a lot more difficult to actually get rid of the fucking card. And he is 3,000, he can uncontact still under Skill Drain. So Skill Drain actually just keeps your opponent at bay, and it really doesn't disrupt the ABC deck that much. I mean, you don't get the utility out of your Xyz, but it's not like ABC is really needed to go into any of the Xyz outside of Tsukiyumi anyways. And actually some of these versions don't even run Tsukiyumi. Now, another interesting thing that I saw is every single build in Japan is running Destrudo, and they're running multiple copies of this card. Hell, I even saw one version that got first place that was running 3 copies of this, and this is crazy. You guys know this comes out in Circuit Break. I compared it to Level Eater because it does summon from the graveyard. You need other monsters on the field to basically eat levels off of, and this card it's like the reverse of Level Eater, where this card loses levels instead of the actual monster that you're eating off of. So this is interesting because I imagine what people want to do is, if you don't have Skill Drain, you have this in your hand where you can summon it, or you can summon it from the graveyard. Maybe you pitch it to the graveyard with your ABC Buster Dragon, and then during your next turn, after you've uncontacted or whatever, you basically just summon it. It seems a little hefty, especially if you're playing Skill Drain, because this is half your life points, but this does allow you to make some synchro plays, which Obviously, the deck isn't known to do. In fact, if you don't run Ash Blossom, you really can't synchro without Destrudo unless you're running, I guess, Ghost Ogre. But it allows you to go into things like Black Rose Dragon. If your opponent has overcommitted to the board, you can Black Rose them and just clean out the courthouse. Or you can use something like Ancient Fairy Dragon, which you're going to be running a whole bunch of like Union Hangers anyway. So maybe you pop your Union Hanger, you get 1,000 life points that you paid from skill drain, get some life points back, get a couple more summons or something like that. It's really interesting that people are like running 2s and 3s of a card that I really wasn't sure if this card was going to see much meta play, let alone in a deck like ABC. And I guess at worst, if you have skill drain out, you can just sit on this motherfucker, and he has a 3,000 wall and nobody's using monster effects at that point. So this could be also a stall potential card. It just kind of sits there on the field and your opponent just has to kind of deal with it. Now let me go ahead and show you guys the other version, and these guys were on the same exact team, so obviously they were, you know, pretty much teammates and they were picking each other's brains. Their decks are going to be incredibly similar, but this kind of points out a problem that I think they're going to have to address even more in Japan. If you look at both variants, guys, you know there are so many freaking field spells in these decks. The other one was running 3 copies of Chicken Game. They're running Pseudo Space in the main deck, in addition, obviously, to the Union Hanger. Obviously, this means that they're going to be running cards like you know, set rotation and whatnot, which I've said I'm really not a fan of running this card, especially in Phantasms, because if you lose your Pacifist, it's like, fuck it, I might as well just scoop now. But guys, I think they're going to have to address terraforming even more. Like terraforming, we were talking about it going to 1. This shit might just have to get banned now. If people are playing this many field spells and they're maxing out on terraforming and they're maxing out on set rotation, like they have a fucking problem in the OCG where like every deck is just running too many damn field. Look how many fucking field spells this is. Look how many cards are devoted to just running field spells. Like a third of this deck is just field spell city. So maybe Konami's gonna end up banning terraforming because they did just kind of make a replacement. But this is really interesting. And by the way, if you guys are wondering why both of these versions only have 12 cards in the extra, that's just because the other 3 cards are Link monsters, which is a really crazy play that you can do. And one of the reasons I think ABC is doing so well is because it doesn't really get wrecked that hard by the whole rules and regulations with Link summoning. One of the cool things is, let's say you have ABC Buster Dragon in your main monster zone, all right? Or excuse me, your extra monster zone, right? Your opponent doesn't kill it. Obviously, you uncontact out for it. You can just easily link summon those monsters for your, let's say, Decode Talker or something like that. You can trade your A, B, and C. They'll activate. You get a Decode Talker. And then, since they're in the graveyard, because ABC Buster Dragon doesn't give a crap how they got there, you can obviously summon your ABC Buster Dragon using the link points that your link monster just provided with you. So, I actually think ABCs are just, like, they're well equipped to link summon, because ABC Buster Dragon doesn't give a shit how the monsters get in the graveyard as long as they get in the graveyard, and link summoning is essentially like synchro summoning without tuners. So this deck is actually kind of primed for link summoning, and Destrudo just gives you another monster pretty much for free that you can use for link summoning as well. And also the same thing can be said about the Dark Worm, which I saw this and I thought it was a little weird, but I guess this card can have applications. If you don't know what it does, it can summon itself from the graveyard once per turn if you don't have any monsters on the field. It's a little bit of a niche card. It is also level 4. So it does work with all your A, B, and C for like XC players going into Utopia or possibly Exoton, which is still legal there. Or you can use it as a level 4 monster to synchro with Destrudo, going to Ancient Fairy Dragon or Black Rose. But just wanted to show you guys a really crazy take on ABC. For starters, I thought it was weird that ABC was back on top in the OCG, but to see these versions where people are like running 2s and 3s of Destrudo, a card that I didn't think would see play, and you know, skill drain and so many freaking field spells, it is really weird. And I wonder if this is going to translate to the TCG, guys, because again, Zodiac and True Draco, like, their days are numbered. It's just basically a countdown into our next ban list. I do not expect Zodiac to survive it at all, and it's going to kind of be like the Wild Wild West. And what I mean when I say that is it'll kind of be like an unestablished format. It'll be like every deck is kind of, you know, reaching for the crown. Every deck is trying to get on that Iron Throne. I'm going to just keep making Game of Thrones references. You've got so many decks that were good, but obviously they just got drowned out by Zodiac. Decks like Phantasms and Spirals and stuff like that. And every one of those decks without Zodiac and True Draco on the way maybe has a shot at being a legitimate contender, especially on the regional level. Like if there were no Zodiac and no True Draco, Dracos, I would definitely take Dark Magician to regionals, but I am not going to fucking take that deck right now. So what do you guys ultimately think? Do you think that this is a good thing? I mean, how could you not think it's a good thing? ABC's back in the meta, crazy ass versions. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching as always, and subscribe if you have not already.